So the Feast of the Annunciation, but in some ways, these lessons from one from Isaiah and one from the Epistle to the Hebrews give us that tension which is contained in this feast, which always falls during Lent. Sometimes it'll fall in the middle of like Holy Week. And so precisely at the time in which we're called as God's people to reflect upon Jesus's suffering love, we're called to also reflect on how that love got started. And tying into my sermon from last Sunday, the God's love starts in silence. It starts in very small things. But Mary is raised up amongst us as one who was able to have ears for God's silent word of love. She opened her heart to the very small thing, the very small way in which God wanted to begin the regeneration, the renewal of the entire cosmos, of humanity, and all things in heaven on earth begins in Mary's womb, in silence, in obscurity, and ultimately in suffering. As the gospel stories and the nativity show us, the Mary and Joseph's journey was not an easy one. Each in their own way was called to suffer, even as Jesus is in the womb. So from beginning to the end, really at the beginning and at the end, there is suffering love. There is self-gift. There is an openness to be willing for God to call one out into a place of vulnerability, of woundedness, of total dependence. And this is one of the key aspects of the Feast of the Annunciation. As on the one hand, we have the angel confronting Mary and giving her the good news, but that good news is going to call forth the depths of her capacity for patience, for submission, and for trust. So in both these things that come together, the Epistle of the Hebrews ending on how God's Son is made perfect through suffering, God's good news is presented to us complete, perfect in the sense of completed, fulfilled through suffering love. We hear the announcement, which so few can hear. The great noise and the glory which so few can see. But those who have the eyes for the kind of love, the manner in which God reveals his love to humanity. We're privileged to be able to hear the silence of God's love, to see God's glory in woundedness and vulnerability, in pain and marginalization, but to see God at work precisely in those places, and to be drawn to him there and worship Jesus, our Savior, precisely there. Let us say a reading from the prophet Isaiah. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of the messenger who announces peace, who brings good news, who announces salvation, who says to Zion, your God reigns. Listen, your sentinels lift up their voices. Together they sing for joy, for in plain sight they see the return of the Lord to Zion. Break forth together into singing, you ruins of Jerusalem, for the Lord has comforted his people. He has redeemed Jerusalem. The Lord has bared his holy arm before the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. Depart, depart, go out from there, touch no unclean thing. Go out from the midst of it, purify yourselves, you who carry the vessels of the Lord. For you shall not go out in haste, and you shall not go out in flight. For the Lord will go before you, and the God of Israel will be your rear guard. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. A reading from the Epistle to the Hebrews. God did not subject the coming world about which we are speaking to angels, but someone has testified somewhere, what are human beings that you are mindful of them, or mortals that you care for them? You have made them for a little while lower than the angels. You have crowned them with glory and honor, subjecting all things under their feet. Now, in subjecting all things to them, God left nothing outside their control. As it is, we do not yet see everything in subjection to them, but we do see Jesus, who for a little while was made lower than the angels, now crowned with glory and honor because of the suffering of death, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. It was fitting that God, for whom and through whom all things exist, in bringing many children to glory, should make the pioneer of their salvation perfect through sufferings. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.